last night over Nova Scotia. That's a very good Nova Scotia team skipped by Paul Fleming. We mentioned that the ice conditions, and Clayton, you know all about the ice conditions here at the Swift Current Curling Club. You've curled here before, obviously, and it's outstanding ice that's been put together by Chief Ice Technician Jason Bratton and his crew.
Yeah, for sure. Jason does an awesome job, and his crew. I've curled a lot of years out of here, and have curled in quite a few barns, and our ice is up to with anybody.
And as you'll see, the game is underway. Amanda Gates getting us underway.
For some reason, I have no screenshot of anything at the rink.
Well, I can see it through the window, but yes, we have lost our video feed for this game. But I'll tell you that Amanda has put it as a center guard, so I'll just call the play-by-play from here through the glass once our team at Curling Stadium gets the video feed sorted out. Scott McDonald now asking for his lead, Laura Neal, and his wife, Laura Neal, to come around the center guard that was just put up. This will be more radio play-by-play than TV, I believe.
That makes it tough for me because I'm working out of my office.
And the come around draw is made by Laura Neal to the top 4 foot and pretty much buried behind the center guard. So nice touch there by Laura Neal. So it will be Amanda Gates. She'll be asked by her skip, Trevor Bonneau, to play a come around freeze onto the top of the rock that was just thrown by Laura Neal. Two teams with an awful lot of experience. Both these teams played at last year's Canadian Mixed in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Northern Ontario, as we mentioned, did make it to the gold medal game before losing to Quebec's team Felix Asselin. And they Team Ontario finished with a 6-4 record. Ironically, the same record as Northern Ontario after round robin play, but the tiebreaker favored Team Northern Ontario. So a little bit short on the come around from Amanda. So it is two center guards up there, but Ontario is sitting shot buried at the top, just biting the 4 foot. So Laura Neal will play another one on that out turn side. Her out turn counterclockwise rotation. And we appear to have video back. So Clayton, you should be able to see the game right now. And I think I did justice to the situation here.
I haven't been able to get it here yet, but I'll let you know as soon as I can.
And a nice come around draw there by Laura Neal. So Ontario sitting in good shape. And really all Northern Ontario can do. And this is an interesting situation. Yes, those rocks are in the free guard zone, but they can take their own rocks out. And that is what Mike McCarville is being asked to do now by Trevor Bonneau. Double run back potential here. Just drives it by the top. And it is still Ontario sitting 2 guarded. Matthew Hall now, former Canadian and world junior champion, is a teammate of Tyler Tardy. And he's wearing that Ontario color right now, but he is now playing out of Saskatchewan in men's play. Member of Team Ryland Kleider from Saskatoon, played in the PointsBet Invitational with that team earlier this season, and certainly a contender to win that Saskatchewan championship and be the home team for the Montana's Brier presented by AGI, which will take place in early March at the Brandt Center. And we'll tell you more about that as the game goes on. But suffice it to say, that's going to be a great party in Regina. Matthew Hall, as Laurie Eddy and Laura Neal drag that across, but it is just comes up short, does not get across that hog line, so it'll be taken out of play. And now a chance for Northern Ontario to get out of a bit of a mess. Mike McCarville will be asked to play the run back, maybe the run double. Amanda Gates and Jackie McCormick on the sweep. Jackie's going to try and get a little bit of curl on it. There's a nice shot and Little roll as well, so it is suddenly Northern Ontario sitting shot and half buried, but certainly available here for Matthew Hall to play the hack weight, control weight, hit and roll behind the corner. As noted, it is Ontario with hammer, so a chance to sit two here and set up that deuce. That looks a little tight. Laurietti is trying her hardest, but that's going to crash on the guard and bring another Northern Ontario stone into the rings. Will it hang at the back? Scott is trying to get it out, but it's going to hang on as a biter. So each of these teams kind of trading misses back and forth. And this is going to go from a chance for Ontario to sit a couple to Northern Ontario being able to sit three. Scrub here now from Mike McCarville as Jackie McCormick is trying to play that open hit, but is it going to jam? Now it might overcurl, drive it over the top and roll across the rings. Scott McDonald's going to try and drag that out, but it will stay in. So Northern Ontario sitting three. Laurietti now will be asked to play the straight back raise takeout. Many of you will know Laurie, of course, co-host of the wildly popular Two Girls in a Game podcast with her buddy Mary Chilvers. Voted the #1 curling podcast in the world, and hard to argue with that. Laurie also spends her time as a coach with the Ontario Curling Council Academy Team Program, and great to have Laurie and a lot of those players out at the PointsBet Invitational in September in Oakville, Ontario. So misses on the run back. Does remove that rock. Now all three Northern Ontario stones are exposed for now. Jackie McCormick, as noted, Trevor's sister. They were teammates on that 2017 Canadian Mixed Curling Championship team. They went on to the World Mixed Championship that season, and got a silver medal. Lost in the gold medal final to Grant Hardy of Scotland. Of course, Grant, now the vice skip for Bruce Mallett's World Championship team, men's team. And there's another hogged rock. So you wonder if the rain outside is having any kind of effect on this ice. I don't think so. I don't see any frost on the ice. And in speaking with the ice techs earlier, they didn't seem to think it was going to be an issue. No frost buildup overnight, really. And there is dehumidifiers in this building if needed. So I think just pulling the string a little bit. This ice is very, very keen. It was running somewhere in the range of 15 to 15 and a half seconds to get to the button, which is super fast. So now the hit being played by Laurietti. And makes it on the nose, and it is Ontario sitting shot rock with hammer. Get our first look at Trevor Bonneau. Trevor is playing men's this year with Mike McCarville as his teammate, and that always tough Northern Ontario men's playdown scenario. He obviously has to deal with the likes of Tanner Horgan up there. So it should be a very competitive race to see who gets to represent Northern Ontario at the Montana's Brier. But for now, his focus is right on this Canadian mixed, and this is one of Canada's most accomplished mixed skips, obviously. Always in the hunt. Is this rock going to overcurl, though? Mike McCarville going to work. Trying to keep this online. It could jam. And that's a tough miss. I think Laurie felt that she may have touched that by accident, but not big deal. But boy, that was an unfortunate miss for Northern Ontario because it puts Ontario in shot rock position, buried, and now a chance to split the rings and sit two. So again, these teams are just sort of trading misses, and Right now, those misses are favoring Ontario with a chance to sit 2 with hammer. Scott McDonald, get our first look at him. He's an accident benefits claims adjuster for Intact Insurance. Played a lot of high-level curling over the years, represented both Ontario and Nova Scotia at the Brier in the past. Just a really, really good rock thrower. This team has a lot of fun together, too, I can tell you. So just trying to split the rings. Got to be important to be shot here, but the weight looks nice. Matthew Hall is just going to walk it in, and perfect. So not too many good options here for Northern Ontario. I suppose if you felt like you had to command a draw weight, you might want to corner freeze to that stone on the left side of the screen as you're looking at it from the home end. But he is going to play the hit and essentially concede the deuce. Amanda Gates trying to keep that straight. Don't want the jam here. And it is peeled out successfully. So it is essentially a draw to bite the 8-foot. Will get the job done for Scott McDonald and Team Ontario. Good solid first end. Nice comfortable position for Scott McDonald. Took kind of a circuitous route to get to this position to have the shot for 2, but it's exactly what Team Ontario would have put on their first end priority list with hammer. So it'll be up to Laura Neal and Matthew Hall just to keep this nice and clean. Good from here. That will settle into the rings very, very nicely. So it is a first end deuce for Team Ontario. It will be Northern Ontario with last rock advantage when we return after this. Jerry?
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
The Men of Curling calendar is more than a date provider. Each edition is packed with beautiful images and tons of curling information too. Support curlers and charity by buying yours today at curlingcares.com.
Third end. Welcome back to the Swift Current Curling Club as we head into second end action in this Battle of Ontario. And a great start for Ontario. At least a great finish to that end. There's a few misses along the way, but they got the job done, and a deuce on the board for Scott McDonald's team from the St. Thomas Curling Club just outside of London. Now, Northern Ontario, we'll see what they can do with Last Rock. They've got one corner guard up, and it looks like Amanda Gates will be asked to get behind that as soon as possible, unless they're calling the double corners. But no, I think this shot was in the rings, was the call by Trevor Bonneau. Both these teams have one of those really important aspects of what makes for successful curling teams is communication. They communicate weight, they communicate line, constant talking back and forth. And there's a nice shot, nice weight by Amanda Gates. Still not quite getting that finish behind the corner guards that you might like to see later in the week. Certainly it finishes outside to in, not quite there on inside out yet. Matthew Hall now has to play a center guard. Indication from Laurie and Laura is that it's a little warm. That's coming down nice. Great throw by Matthew Hall. And yes, Mike McCarville, he's the other half of that famous curling couple in Northern Ontario. His wife, Krista, of course, has been a medalist at numerous editions of the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, and now it's her turn to watch husband play at a national championship with that great Northern Ontario jacket, too. Those uniforms are on point. Jackie McCormick working hard to see if she can keep that on line and avoid that top guard. Just rubs, and it'll go through the hole and out the back. Good try, but just that little rub. So now Matthew Hall will be asked to chase that Northern Ontario stone. It's about a half exposed. And this is one of those scenarios. Scott communicated that to Matthew, that if you're going to miss, you want to be on the inside and see if you can move that guard off. Wide is not the way to miss. So he'll throw his in turn. Clockwise rotation. Working hard is Laurie, trying to get it by that guard. Looks like it's by. Oh, great throw. Great sweeping by Laurie Eddy. And they'll get the little hit and roll into the forefoot. So it's starting to be a big build-up, but still lots of opportunities here. The guards are up for Northern Ontario, and if Mike can make this little run back and get a roll, suddenly this end looks promising for Northern Ontario. Here's the double. I think it's going to go out the side. Will it spin back? No, it won't. So nice shot there by Mike McCarville, and leaves it in a good spot at the top of the house. So Scott McDonald will ask Lorietti to make a play on that Northern Ontario stone. It's in too good a spot to ignore, that's for sure. Laura Neal working hard on this. Got to get by that top guard. Just does. And will it spill onto the rings? It does. Little jam there. But it does remove the Northern Ontario stone. But now a chance for Northern Ontario to get one behind those. Those are staggered. I would say that that Ontario stone is touching the rings, but it would be working more as a guard here for Northern Ontario if they can get one buried by Jackie McCormick. Now Trevor Bonneau rushing out to give this some help. The call was the come around, but that's going to be very, very light. And that's been a pretty consistent theme so far early in this game. The ice conditions do appear to have changed a little bit, gotten a little heavier. And now that is a big opportunity suddenly back to Ontario because those guards are hooked. And if Ontario can bury one out, you can see how much ice he's taken. There's the call. So to get one buried, he's taking middle of 12 foot. So that's almost 5.5 to 6 feet of curl they're expecting, which makes for fun shot making, particularly into that 4 foot region. Lorietti's shot underway. And so far, Matthew Hall and Laura are not touching it. Don't want this heavy behind the tee line because that certainly would be an opportunity for Northern Ontario. And it will slide deep. But you saw how much curl it did have. But now the advantage is swung back to Northern Ontario. And a chance for Jackie McCormick to make up for that last one. Now you can see there's an example of how the two deliveries may be different. Obviously, Scott McDonald knows that Lorietti needs a little more ice just based on the way she throws the rock. And Trevor Bonneau called it about 6 to 8 inches inside of the broom that Laura had, that Lorietti had. So here's an example of skips knowing releases and deliveries. And there's a nice shot. Is that going to slide a little deep? It won't. Just terrific. Buried. But now Scott McDonald will see if he can get one down on top of that and shrink that scoring zone and make it. If he makes a shot, it's going to be next to impossible for Northern Ontario to score two with Hammer. Scott and Laura did get married this past June, and Lori and Matt, their teammates, were in the wedding party as well. So you can imagine that must have been a great, fun wedding. But once again, Matthew and Laura not wanting to touch this, and looked very similar in weight and line to the one that Lorietti threw. In fact, a little heavier. So that will slide through to the back 12. And again, these teams handing each other opportunities, and now it's a chance for Northern Ontario to set up a two. And again, we see Trevor Bonneau has the broom a little bit inside of what Scott McDonald gave himself. So just a reflection of different releases, different deliveries. ice reading and release reading, such a crucial element of this sport that a lot of casual fans might not appreciate, but it's certainly what separates good skips from great skips. And if you're in Northern Ontario, you like the fact that Amanda Gates and Mike McCarville are already brushes down and working on this, which is what you want. You want to give it to the sweepers so that they can do something with it. The weight looks really nice. Got to get this into the 4-foot. Is it going to come up short? Well, now. I think I would bet on red being shot there, which is a little unfortunate for Northern Ontario. Laurie Eddy taking a close look at it. But it's still another chance for Scott McDonald to get one in there and, again, cut down the opportunity for Nova Scotia to score, or for Northern Ontario to score 2. And again, you can see how much ice Scott McDonald has taken there. That's certainly gets a little more curl than Trevor Bonneau does, but both of them are taking 5 to 5.5, almost 6 feet of ice for this draw to the center line. A little better weight than his first one, obviously. It looks like Laura Neal is just keeping things clean. Matthew Hall ready to jump in if needed. Even short is good on this one. And it will be short. And the challenge has been thrown down. Good luck. How do you get 2? That's a path that hasn't been played, the one that Trevor just put his broom down, the clockwise rotation, his in turn. So that will be the call, seeing if he can, I mean, they would have thrown this path in practice, so they would have a little bit of a sense of it. But still, there's a little bit of guesswork because all the shots have been certainly on that out-turn counterclockwise side. Final shot, second end, Trevor Bonneau has 1 for sure. Coin flip on the second one, but we're pretty sure that Ontario is sitting second, but we've been wrong before. Final shot, Trevor Bonneau. Weight's looking pretty promising based on the actions of Jackie and Mike McCarville here. Gonna have to drag it a little more, though. Can they get that biting? Well, I would say, well, no, I'm not going to say. I'm going to say 1 yellow for sure. I do believe it's 2 yellow. And it is. Laurie Eddy has conceded that deuce. So what a great draw and what great judgment by Amanda Gates and Mike McCarville to get that deuce on the board for Northern Ontario. So we're off to a great start here. Draw 6 action. We'll be right back after this to the Swift Current Curling Club.
I've been raised on the farm since day one, so I was born into it. My grandfather came in here in 1905. I want to continue the farm for him and generations to come. So
I think it's a privilege that we get to be here. It's just a wonderful way of life.
You know, what job is there that you can go to work with your dad and brother, with your kids by your side, Doesn't get much better than that.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
Barry, are you there? Welcome back to the Swift Current Curling Club as we head into the third end here this morning on Sheet C, the Battle of Ontario, and it's been a great, interesting start. It is 2-2, and just a terrific shot by Trevor Bonneau, the Northern Ontario skip last end, in order to get that deuce after Ontario opened the game with two of their own. These teams do know each other quite well, obviously. They've met at the mixed in the past. Back last season, quite a game in Prince Albert when they went head-to-head. It was 5-3 for Ontario playing into the seventh end. Northern Ontario put a 4 on the board in the seventh end last season, and that it was a 7-5 win for Northern Ontario over Ontario at last year's Canadian Mixed in Prince Albert. And essentially, that was the win that put Northern Ontario into the playoffs and knocked Ontario out of the playoffs. It was early. It was in draw 5. This is draw 6, so fairly close. But both teams can look in that game as being pretty important in what would eventually transpire late in the week. And as we mentioned, Northern Ontario did make it to the gold medal game in Prince Albert before losing to Quebec's team Felix Asselin. So I'm sure there's a little bit of revenge on the mind of this Ontario team from St. Thomas. Trying to see if they can hit that on the nose, get a little inside flop. Northern Ontario with the hammer here. Just the one guard up right now, center guard. Be a basic matter of who can get the roll. Laurietti going to work on this. They prefer it doesn't roll too far inside, but now they would prefer that it stays on the rings. And a little bit of a over curl there from Matthew Hall. And it does roll out. Now a big opportunity for Northern Ontario to utilize that guard. Center guard and a chance to get one buried behind it. That's sort of textbook if you're trying to steal. It's Mike McCarville. You can see how that finishes so nicely here at the Swift Current Curling Club. That may even, in fact, overcurl and come out the other side. And it does. And just a little bit deep. And that's a, you know, that extra 8 to 10 inches that it slid makes a big difference in how this end will play out, as Scott McDonald will now ask Matthew Hall to play his outturn counterclockwise and see if he can freeze one right to that rock. Matthew works for Coolbet. He's an odds maker. He specifically in curling helps set the curling odds for championship events. Not the mixed. I don't hardly need to point that out, but other big events, he's the odds maker, and other sports as well. Bit light on that. Now, again, advantage back to Northern Ontario as that rock will act as a guard. Now we'll see Jackie McCormick, see if she can get on top of that shot stone that's at the back of the button. Jackie's 45. She's an audiologist. She owns her own audiology practice in Fort Frances called Frequency Hearing Center. She's a hockey mom, but she and her husband, Andy, they not only watch their kids play hockey, they're successful competitive fishermen as well. They fish for walleye and bass in local fishing competitions and apparently do quite well, which is a pretty awesome way to spend summers in that part of Northern Ontario, I'm positive. So a little bit light on it, but still a chance. It is Northern Ontario sitting 2 behind cover, and really not much of an option here for Ontario other than to run their own back, and that's what Laurietti will try. Not quite, but it does remove one of the guards. Trevor Bonneau will ask Jackie McCormick to replace that guard and keep the steal alive. Just keeping this clean. Now, Mike and Amanda trying to drag it, get it in position, and that ends up pretty nicely. But Ontario can still see, let's say, 90% of their own stone, and I'm sure they'll play another run back attempt and see if they can get it by that top yellow guard this time. Laurietti now. And already Laura Neal is sweeping it to keep it straight and see if they can get it by that guard. But it is going to curl up again and make contact with the yellow guard, and it still remains. Northern Ontario sitting a couple. And Trevor Bonneau's job will be pretty simple. See if he can get that guard back into place. That protects his own stones and also makes that short run back attempt that Ontario has been trying the last couple stones a little tougher. Trevor's 38. Very prominent in that Thunder Bay curling scene. It was great to see him at the announcement that we held, Curling Canada held last month in Thunder Bay, announcing that the 2025 Scotties would be in Thunder Bay. And I know all of us are hoping that this Scotties goes off without a hitch. We all know that that 2021 Scotties was supposed to be in Thunder Bay, but couldn't be held there, so it was moved into the bubble in Calgary, which was a shame because it was expected to be a sellout. So Thunder Bay was then granted the opportunity to host in 2022, and that was looking close to sellout crowds. And of course, just shortly before the event started, the Ontario government, due to rising cases of the Omicron variant had to close doors to major events, so that event had to be played without fans in the building until just shortly until the closing weekend, when a few hundred volunteers were allowed in. So now 2025, Thunder Bay will get its opportunity to finally host a Scotties Tournament of Hearts that should go off without a hitch. And I don't know if you heard, but that's me knocking on wood. So now, really, it's going to be a draw for Scott McDonald. His out turn, trying to get it into that 4-foot, if not to the pin, because there is room. The button is available, but Matthew Hall and Laura are really going to have to work this to drag it. Is it light? Just does touch and comes up short. And it still is Northern Ontario sitting 2. So a couple options here for Northern Ontario. I mean, it seems logical to assume that Scott McDonald's final shot would certainly involve that rock he just threw, an angle raise of some sort. So do you guard that? Or is your best guard, in fact, throwing another yellow rock into the 4-foot? Or do you just hit that one? It is wide open. Just a nose hit. And then wish Scott McDonald some luck, because it's going to be awfully hard for Ontario to score if Trevor makes this shot successfully. Nose hit. Northern Ontario would be sitting 3. Mike McCarville working on keeping this straight. Just control weight. Looks like it's right on target. Very nice throw by Trevor Bonneau. So Scott McDonald is going to go to the edge of the 12-foot. And essentially, this is the same sort of shot that Trevor Bonneau threw last end. On a path that really hasn't been thrown. Clockwise rotation, in turn. And a little bit of guesswork here involved. Again, these teams would have thrown on this path in practice, but both teams' sweepers going up and down the ice on this sort of track of ice may have affected it since practice. So we'll see how Scott navigates this tough shot against 3. Matthew Hall already working at it. Now they're called off. Now Laura's going to try to get a curl. The weight looks really nice. It's going to cut him down to 1. Can he get it closer? Oh, great try. Super try by Scott McDonald, but will be a steal of 1 for Northern Ontario. And it will be Ontario trailing 3-2, but with the hammer when we come back for the 4th end.
We're for agriculture. For growers, doers, whatever it takers. We're for doing things with purpose. We're for the little guy with big guy dreams. We're for agriculture. We're for you. Nutrien Ag Solutions, leading the field.
This is it. It all comes down to this rock. The hours in the gym, the weeks away from my family. This is what I've been training for. And all those voices trying to tear me down, I'm here to silence them. We've given everything we have for a chance to get everything we want.
The Men of Curling calendar is back for 2024. 18 curling athletes from 4 different nations are raising money for various charities. Support them by purchasing yours today at curlingcares.com.
Welcome back to the Swift Current Curling Club as we head into the fourth end of what's been a very interesting Battle of Ontario so far. Northern Ontario getting the steal in the third end, and it will be Ontario with hammer in this fourth end, down by a point. A few misses in this game have sort of defined it, but a couple great shots by the skips there. That was a clutch shot by Scott McDonald just now in order to cut Northern Ontario down to just the single. Reminder, we'll be back on the air with 2 more games today from the 2023 Canadian Mixed here on Curling Canada Plus. And a reminder, of course, at Curling Stadium, you'll be able to see all 4 games. You can choose which game you want to watch. Draw times later today at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, and again, we'll be on air at 6 p.m. Eastern Central, 7 p.m. Eastern here at the Canadian Mixed. Mike McCarville now will try and play that center guard as Northern Ontario has done a nice job protecting steals when they've had opportunities. So the run back attempt here now by Matthew Hall. Straight back, and it will run past that counter from Ontario, but does for Northern Ontario, but it does leave another corner guard in play for Ontario to use later in the end. So the guard will be called again for Mike McCarville. Four games in action here this morning at the Swift Current Curling Club. Of course, you can see all the scores all the time on curling.ca/scoreboard. Curling.ca/scoreboard. That rock might be available now for Ontario. Matthew Hall is going to play something a little more control weight, and they see if they can get the roll behind those corners. Laurietti trying to keep that straight. Will it get by the guard? Just rubs, and boy, there's been a few of those for Ontario today. Just glancing off the guard. And tough miss there from Matthew Hall. So the draw is called for Jackie McCormick to come right in on top, and that is a nice draw weight. Boy, there were some struggles earlier in this game as ice seemed to be a little stiffer than it had been the first few draws. A couple hogged rocks that we saw, but both teams seem to have gotten on top of that now. That's a really nice shot there by Jackie McCormick. Now Lori Eddy will be asked to see if she can remove that. And again, they want that tap and roll. You don't have to throw a ton of weight at this. The ice is very lively. The house, those rocks will slide in the house for sure. So she doesn't have to throw a ton of weight. It's more about the roll here than anything. But it will wreck on the guard, and just another one of those misses that are really getting in the way of Ontario building up any ends here with Hammer. So the guard will be asked for to replace the one that was just taken out of play. Of course, that is the miss. That was not a bad miss by Lori Eddy because it does get one rock into the house and removes the guard. So that's another example of knowing how to miss. That came into the house, so maybe a little stiffer than was called for. So a chance now for another hit and roll for Lori Eddy. There's the triple, and will it hang? The triple attempt anyways. It does remove two rocks, and it does hang on the ring. So now it is Ontario sitting first and third. Big throw there from Lori Eddy. Trevor Bonneau now. Looks like he'll play a freeze attempt behind those corner guards. And neutralize that counting Ontario stone. So Ontario fighting its way back into this fourth end. Now the call is for Amanda Gates to try and get some curl out of this rock. Just not really finishing that way, but and it's going to slide by. So now we talk about this game having some back and forth twists. Chance now for Ontario. If they can get one buried behind those corner guards, 3 is definitely in play in this end. Big opportunity here for Scott McDonald. See if he can manufacture a little bit of finish on this. It's a big opportunity here for Ontario. Just another example of patience. This end was looking all Northern Ontario in the first half, but a little bit of patience has paid off here for Ontario. The weight looks good. It's just all about line right now. Taking forever to make its move, but there it goes. But again, not quite able to find that line that'll get it buried. That is about 2/3 exposed. There is the chance to make sort of a slash double takeout and remove them both here for Trevor Bonneau, but he will take it on. It's kind of one of those scenarios you don't want to get too cute with it. I think you'll throw some weight at it. Some people might say just throw some control at it, but boy, if you tick on that guard, suddenly you're giving up 3 potentially. Final shot for Trevor Bonneau in this 4th end. Amanda Gates trying to get a little bit of curl on it to see if that'll make the slash. And it barely tickles it, but it will remove. It will move one of those stones far enough so that 3 is definitely not in play. It'll be, well, now Scott McDonald's taking a look. There's a shot at 4, but I think he only gave it a brief consideration. Kind of a long run back double on the 2 yellows, but boy, you have to make that perfect. So it will be a draw for 2 here for Ontario. Which, at the beginning of the end, if you'd asked him, do we want to score 2 in this end, he would have said yes all day. So, chance to go back into the lead. Chance to score in the even ends, which is always good for scoreboard management. A chance to go into that 4th end break with a little momentum. And that will come to a rest in a perfect spot, and it will be 2 on the scoreboard for Ontario. So a back and forth game, and this time it's Ontario that will pick up some momentum. They will take a 4-3 lead, and they will take their 4th end break. We will too. We'll be back at the Swift Current Curling Club in a few moments.
Something new and interesting is always just down the highway here. Find hidden gems grown from the ground up. Hidden gems that can surprise you at every turn. Get a taste for the beauty that thrives in a place where we are given space to grow. Get curious in our prairie life and city lights. Saskatchewan.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year. With Sask Lotteries, everyone wins.
The Men of Curling calendar is more than a date provider. Each edition is packed with beautiful images and tons of curling information too. Support curlers and charity by buying yours today at curlingcares.com.
Swift Current is great because everybody that we do business with, we know on some sort of personal level.
What I love about Swift Current is the vibrant arts and culture community.
I really like Swift Current. We are not a big city, but the size of the city is really good and we have everything.
Swift Current is a great sports town, great teams and great fans.
People say, good morning, hi, how are you, even though we don't know each other.
We asked Saskatchewan what they know about 5G.
More speed, more innovation.
It's gonna make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier.
This is what 5G looks like.
Better, faster.
Sounds like one more G. Sounds pretty good.
I don't know what it means.
All you really need to know is the future of 5G is here and will continue improving through investments in network technology.
The Men of Curling calendar is back for 2024. 18 curling athletes from 4 different nations are raising money for various charities. Support them by purchasing yours today at curlingcares.com.
Here is what cowboy dreams are made of. Strong, calloused hands, open skies, the smell of leather and horses and sagebrush. It's getting off the road to explore, a chance to have a real Western experience. Hats, boots, and hard work. It's finding peace while connecting to the land and with those on the same adventure. Pull up a seat or get in the saddle in our living skies and Badlands. Saskatchewan.
Welcome back to the Swift Current Curling Club as we get underway in this Draw 6 game. The 5th end is started after a 4th end break that I'm sure was some interesting conversation with both teams. My name is Al Cameron from Curling Canada, bringing you the action this morning from the 2023 Canadian Mixed Curling Championship here in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. And it will be Northern Ontario with last rock here in this 5th end after Ontario scored a big deuce in the 4th. And Trevor Bonneau will make the call right away to have Amanda Gates come around that guard that was just thrown by Team Ontario's Laura Neal. A reminder, both of these teams would be expected to be contenders to be in that championship pool that begins later this week. Ontario coming in with a 2-0 record, Northern Ontario at 1-1. Trevor Bonneau is going to see if he can drag this shot into the rings. And it will just slide in and almost fully buried, but still a big chance here for Ontario and its lead, Laura Neal, to make that come around and see if she can get one into the 4-foot. Laura was born on Christmas Eve, and she is a provincial constable for the Ontario Provincial Police, based at the Middlesex London Detachment. Let's see where this ends up. Looking nice as Matthew Hall tries to carve it over, and that's a great shot by Laura Neal. So now Amanda Gates is going to try and chase around that. Neither of these sweepers are looking at it, though. I don't know if that any kind of sweeping is going to make that come in. Mike McCarville will try and make it work a little, but I think that's going to slide by. So that comes up deep, and now a chance for Ontario to get another one in there. Matthew Hall now. See if he can get one in roughly the same spot that Laura Neal threw. Okay, up to date on scores here in a moment. 4 sheets in play here at the Swift Current Curling Club. Day 3 action at the 2023 Canadian Mixed Curling Championship. Lori and Laura working hard to see if they can get it by these guards. By one. Don't know if it's going to get it by the second one. It'll just rub off. And about a third buried. Trevor Bonneau looking at his options here for Mike McCarville. Seeing if they can potentially remove those 2 red rocks. I don't think that's the call, though. It's just a matter of moving them around, and they don't like the angles here at all. Hall will be the guard for Laurietti, as Ontario is in very good shape for the steal here. Trying to get some finish on that, and it will. Perfect spot for that guard by Laurietti. Really not too much away in the options here for Northern Ontario. Got to make those guards disappear. Double peel would be ideal here for Laurietti. For Jackie McCormick, pardon me. The vice skip for Northern Ontario. Trying to keep that on line. Now, don't know if they're going to be able to get both guards. No, that's just going to over curl. And they'll peel it off and move the shooter off to the wings there. Quick look at the other scores here. It is Alberta, Team Evan Van Amsterdam up in a 4-1 lead over Newfoundland Labradors, Team Keith Ryan. Manitoba, unbeaten. They're in a tough game against New Brunswick. Team Charlie Sullivan of St. John. They're in a 3-3 tie. And over on sheet D, it is a 2-2 game. An Atlantic Canada battle between Team Paul Fleming of Nova Scotia, Team Tyler Smith of Prince Edward Island. So some good games here this morning at the Swift Current Curling Club. And as we said, every game being streamed live here on Curling Canada Plus with our friends at Curling Stadium. You can watch every sheet, every shot if you'd like. And of course, you can always get up-to-date scores and standings on curling.ca/scoreboard. Curling.ca/scoreboard. So once again, that guard is up in Northern Ontario. In a little bit of chase mode here. Jackie McCormick has a chance to peel off those two guards. Or a straight back run back and remove some of those stones in the forefoot. Looks like the double peel will be made. Very nice throw by Jackie McCormick. So Scott McDonald will be asked to play the guard. The way it's looking, if this guard is made, I mean, it's going to be a challenge for Northern Ontario to score with hammer here in the fifth end. Scott's out turn, counterclockwise rotation. It's just about rock placement in line. The weight looks good. See they switch sweepers there to get Matthew closest to the rock and see if he can get a little more finish on it. And looks like he did. Perfectly lined up those rocks, not visible from the hack at all. I think Trevor Bonneau is going to take a shot at the run back double here. I mean, yes, you could get all three of those rocks moving, the two in the forefoot as well as the guard. Both these teams will be in action later today. Northern Ontario will be right back on the ice in the afternoon draw at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. They'll play Quebec's team Pierre-Luc Morissette. Boy, that Quebec-Saskatchewan game last night was a thriller. So that'll be Quebec's first action of the day. And Ontario will be on the ice tonight, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, against Prince Edward Island. So I don't know if the straight back's going to happen here. Just a straight peel. And a chance again here for Ontario to put up another guard. And then, really, it looks like the only option would be a draw to bite the button on that in-turn side, clockwise rotation. Scott McDonald, Ontario skip his final shot here in the 5th end. Just through this shot, so you have a pretty good sense of the line and the weight, as well as sweepers. There's the switch so that Matthew can see if they can get a little more curl, but looks like it's in a perfect spot. And the broom will go down, and as we suspected, it will be the draw to bite the button for Trevor Bonneau, looking at 2. It's one of those things that this is a shot that skips probably throw more often in practice than anything else. Draw to the button from both sides. It's the crucial shot for a skip, right? I mean, in games, pregame draw to the button for hammer. This is the shot that they need to make. And yet, those rocks in play, plus the stakes, just make it a little tougher. So Trevor's just got to block what's going out of his mind. Just don't even think that those red rocks are there and see if he can get to the button. But now Mike and Amanda keeping the line straight, keeping it clean. It's looking promising. Is it going to be light? It will be light. So it will be a big steal of 2 for Ontario. They will take a 6-3 lead, and Northern Ontario will have hammer when we return after this.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year. With Sask Lotteries, everyone wins.
Something new and interesting is always just down the highway here. Find hidden gems grown from the ground up. Hidden gems that can surprise you at every turn. Get a taste for the beauty that thrives in a place where we are given space to grow. Get curious in our prairie life and city lights. Saskatchewan.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
Welcome back to the Swift Current Curling Club as we head into the 6th end of this morning's feature game between Ontario's team Scott McDonald from the St. Thomas Curling Club just outside of London and Team Northern Ontario's Trevor Bonneau team from the Fort William Club in Thunder Bay. The Battle of Ontario. Here at the Canadian Mixed, I'm Al Cameron from Curling Canada, bringing you play-by-play today. And it will be Northern Ontario looking to get back on track after giving up back-to-back 2s, 2 in the 4th, a steal of 2 in the 5th to Ontario, and it is a 6-3 lead for Ontario. Northern Ontario does have the hammer here in the 6th. 8 end games, a reminder, at the Canadian Mixed Championship, and I'll say that neither team is in any kind of time trouble. Both have been very good with their time clock management so far. Each team given 30 minutes plus 2 90-second timeouts to get through the game. Corner guard was up there for Northern Ontario. A little deep here, but it's playable. That has been a consistent theme, is just those corner guards have been put up, but it's been tough for teams to bury behind them. They just have to adjust their broom a little bit, I think, and I think it's possible to bury behind them, but consistently teams have been reluctant to tighten the ice so far. So 2 in the forefoot, 1 on the button for Ontario, and Matthew Hall's being asked to neutralize that Northern Ontario stone at the back and make a play on it. And good throw there by Matthew. Takes it out. The freeze attempt will be asked for by Mike McCarville. For Mike McCarville by Trevor Bonneau. You have to think this end, being the 6th in an 8-end game, it is crucial that Northern Ontario get 2 or more if they want a chance of winning. Down 3 with Hammer, not the end of the world, but only 3 ends to play and potentially only 2 hammers to play with. They got to get something going in this end. Now there's a nice shot. There's a perfect example. You can bury behind these corner guards if you tighten the ice, and there was a nice example there. Mike McCarville found the secret formula, so to speak, and made it perfect. And all that Ontario can do here is peel the guard. That guard really is the only way that Northern Ontario has a shot at 3, so no wonder that Ontario is going to make a play at it. Good throw by Matt Hall. Still is Ontario sitting 2. And, you know, a lot of skips might think about playing weight at this and see if they can get the double takeout, but Trevor Bonneau knows that you just tap those a little bit around, shake up the angle a bit. Now they're behind the tee line. Suddenly they're catchers for his own stones. So those rocks being in play behind the tee line are actually more valuable than they would be out of play. Certainly more helpful for Northern Ontario. So the tap was called. Amanda and Jackie working hard on this. It's pretty good. I think he would have liked a little more weight thrown at that, but the angle was right, and it's going to be awfully hard to take that yellow stone out. Now it does give an opportunity to Ontario to remove that Northern Ontario stone that's off to the side. Scrub is on here. Laurietti trying to just take the shot out, maybe get a roll in. And it does, but... So it still is Ontario sitting a couple. Just one lonely Northern Ontario stone in the rings. And as you can see, Trevor Bonneau thinking about any way possible to get this manufacture a deuce. Looks like the freeze was the call here for Jackie McCormick. Just over curls a little bit, so it will be a fairly routine opportunity here for Ontario to remove that stone and have 5 counters in the rings. Lorietti playing some weight at this. Don't have to keep, whoa, but Matthew Hall takes a tumble. Big tumble, and we'll have to see if he's okay. Certainly burned the rock, and he's asking for an official timeout. The broom was broken. Oh my. Broke it right in the middle, and that could have been very, very dangerous. Seems to be okay, and he's going to go find a new broom handle. But that was a scary moment. Don't see that very often at all. First and foremost, obviously, we want to make sure Matthew's okay. He just went off the ice to get another broom, I believe. But we are in an official's timeout. There, he's back. And telling the on-ice official, Tom McPhee, that he's okay to continue. Goodness, glad to hear that. Just check to see if there was any debris from the broken broom left on the ice. Might ask the ice technicians to come out and take a look at this. Tom McPhee, as you see, the umpire there. Just take a little bit of a timeout here. And of course, you have the opportunity, if you choose, you can switch to another sheet here on Curling Canada Plus. Just click to whatever sheet you want to watch while we're in this timeout. And the ice technicians, Jason Bratton and his crew, will come out and take a look at this ice surface to make sure there's no significant damage from the broken broom. No doubt that Matthew is a little shaken up by that, but just seeing there on the right-hand side, he seems to be okay. But yeah, they'll bring out the mop and just see if they can pick up any debris. These brooms, of course, made from a carbon fiber material, so there'll be potentially little slivers left on the ice. And bringing the, it's Chris Heikert on the left, a member of Team Saskatchewan. He's brought out the mop. So Chris Heikert pulling double duty here at the Canadian Mixed. Of course, he is the second for Team Saskatchewan. He brings out the mop, and they'll continue looking at this ice. That's kind of the trade-off with these broom handles being what they are. They are extremely lightweight, but made of fibrous material that would potentially leave little slivers. I don't think it took anything out of the ice, but certainly a scary moment. There's Jason Broughton getting some quality camera time. The head ice technician here at the Swift Current Curling Club is a different kind of sweeping going on here to make sure that there's no debris that could have an effect. And there you see in the background holding that the wide mop, that is Chris Heikert, who is focusing on his day job here this morning. Him and that Team Saskatchewan lineup will be back in action this afternoon here at the Canadian Mixed, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. They'll be playing Terry Miller's team from the Yukon. So Jason and umpire Tom McPhee looking to see if they can sweep everything up. Again, we are in an official's timeout. But yes, those broom handles do leave some debris. Now it appears we are ready to get back into action after that official timeout. So ultimately it does go in the books as a miss. Just an unfortunate miss for Ontario. And Northern Ontario, which had been in chase mode for most of this end, has a chance to get out of trouble with Hammer. Jackie McCormick being asked to play short little angle raise on a rock. She got to hold the shooter. Is it going to make contact with anything? It will not. Oh, now that miss is from Ontario based on the burned rock is given right back. So the broom handle that Matthew Hall was using is officially off the hook. Now Ontario will get another chance to play that shot that Scott McDonald had been trying, which was a takeout to remove one of that Northern Ontario stone that Lorietti has her broom right in front of. He does make the shot, and the shooter will roll over top, but it still will be Ontario sitting 2 into the 4-foot. And Northern Ontario's Trevor Bonneau wondering how he can manufacture a deuce that you'd think is almost a necessity in this 6th end. Couple options here for Northern Ontario. I think they're going to just play a short little tap on their own and see again if they can use those redstones as catchers backing. But right now they'd need a miss out of Scott McDonald if they want to score 2 in this end. Here is the attempt from Trevor Bonneau to play that tap. Nice execution. Makes the shot as called, but I think there's an opportunity here to really put the pressure on and get a force out of Northern Ontario for Ontario if he can just make the the top rock go away, and little nose hit or a little inside flop would be a pretty good outcome for Ontario. So that will be the call for Scott McDonald. First and foremost, make that yellow stone go away. Then nose hit or just a little cross the face roll, short roll would be a great outcome. Really make that deuce tough for Northern Ontario. Trying to avoid the jam, though. Oh, it does jam. And that's a bad miss by Scott McDonald because it does open the door now for Northern Ontario. And that was really what the outcome with Trevor Bonneau. That was the strategy behind his first shot, was to create that possibility of a jam. And mission accomplished. So a little bit of a skips deuce in play here for Northern Ontario. Trevor Bonneau needs to bite the forefoot to get a deuce and get back into this game. We said right off the top of this sixth end that you'd have to think it's almost a necessity for Northern Ontario to get 2 with hammer in this sixth end. And he's on the verge of doing that. Sweepers aren't loving the weight right now, though. Amanda Gates is trying to get it to curl over and use the stone that Trevor threw on his first as some backing. Should be okay. Oh, there it is. Boy, that was a good audible by Trevor and Jackie to get that rock to curl over. It needed the touch, their stone, and it does, and it is a 2 for Northern Ontario's team. Trevor Bonneau, a big deuce here in the sixth end. We'll come back right after this for seventh end action.
Here is what cowboy dreams are made of. Strong, calloused hands, open skies, the smell of leather and horses and sagebrush. It's getting off the road to explore, a chance to have a real Western experience. Hats, boots, and hard work. It's finding peace while connecting to the land and with those on the same adventure. Pull up a seat or get in the saddle in our living skies and Badlands, Saskatchewan.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year. With Sask Lotteries, everyone wins.
The Men of Curling calendar is more than a date provider. Each edition is packed with beautiful images and tons of curling information too. Support curlers and charity by buying yours today at curlingcares.com.
Welcome back to the Swift Current Curling Club as we head into the seventh end of this morning's Battle of Ontario. It is Team Ontario's Team Scott McDonald from St. Thomas that will have hammer in the seventh end with a 6-5 lead, but Northern Ontario's Team Trevor Bonneau from Thunder Bay just scored 2 big points in that sixth end, manufactured on skip rocks. and partially helped along by a burned rock that was the result of a broken broom, Matthew Hall's broom breaking in pieces, but thankfully no injuries from that incident, and we're well underway here in the 7th end, and it will be Ontario with hammer. What's been a pretty entertaining game. Lots of makes, lots of misses. That always makes for entertaining curling. Laura Neal trying to get one into that 4-foot area with her out turn, counterclockwise rotation. Drifting a little wide. And it does end up a little deep too, so that, again, we talk about it often, but those rocks behind the tee line, even though they are shot rock, certainly does work to the advantage of the team without hammer, and that in this case is Northern Ontario. So here's Mike McCarville looking to get one behind that center guard. Lots of room by the guard. See how the weight is, see if they can get it to finish a little bit. Trevor Bonneau is going to lean into it. Drags it in for second shot, but it is wide open, and I think that will be ignored by Ontario. The key here right now is certainly to remove a lot of those rocks in front of the house. Ontario with hammer here. They'd like to obviously score a couple, but I'll tell you this, a blank would certainly be a great outcome for Ontario as well. One up, coming home with the hammer is always a great situation to be in. So Matthew Hall will throw some weight at this, see how many rocks they can make go away. That's not a bad outcome. You know, you'd say, well, it got rid of their own rock. But again, as we said, that Ontario stone behind the tee line was actually helping Northern Ontario more than it was helping Ontario. So that's a good outcome. Good throw by Matthew Hall. Good to see him bounce back after it's a scary looking fall. His broom broke and he fell on the rock. And those things can, that could have been something serious. So thankfully he's good to go and throws a nice peel on his first throw here in the 7th end. So the guard was the call for Northern Ontario, Mike McCarville. They have to work on this to get it across. They do. Very high guard. And Ontario certainly firmly in peel mode now. Just make that go away is the call. Matthew Hall with his second shot here in the 7th end. Trying to get that off, and that's a nice sweep by Laurie and Laura to keep that on line and be able to peel that shooter off as well, in addition to removing the guard. So Jackie McCormick now for Northern Ontario. Again, another guard is the call. At some point, you know Northern Ontario will make a play and see if they can promote their rock that's in the rings closer to the button. But for now, guards are the play. Quick reminder, we'll be back on the air today at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, with more action from the 2023 Canadian Mixed here on Curling Canada Plus, in conjunction with our partners at Curling Stadium. All 4 sheets being streamed here from the Swift Current Curling Club. So you can watch your favorite teams every shot, wall-to-wall coverage of the 2023 Canadian Mixed Curling Championship. Once again, the call is for the peel for Laurietti. Good throw, good sweep. Peel is made. Now the come around being called by Trevor Bonneau. As we've said from the start of this game, there is lots of curling in this ice when you're coming from the outside in. So Jackie McCormick will see if she can find some curl. Get that one buried into the forefoot. The sweeper's not touching this at all. So you wonder if this is a little bit hot. Amanda Gates will try and see if she can get it going sideways a little more. And now you got that funny situation where both teams are sweeping one rock. But it does end up pretty deep. And now, yes, Scott McDonald recognizes that they've got a chance to remove that dangerous Northern Ontario stone at the top of the house. Potential is there for a double takeout, but more than anything, he just wants to make sure that rock goes away. Love to hit this on the nose or as close to nose as possible. And it will be a jam, but again, that's not a terrible scenario. It's well back in the house. Forefoot is available. Now Trevor Bonneau looking at a couple options here. The draw was one, but I like this call because it would put Ontario into position where a force might be a good outcome, and Northern Ontario could conceivably have last rock advantage down by 2 coming into the 8th end. So forcing Ontario to 1 would be a nice outcome here for Northern Ontario. This team, as we've mentioned, silver medalists at last year's Canadian Mixed in Prince Albert, gold medalists in 2017, so no shortage of championship experience, but that is actually going to over curl and go through the hole. Oh, that's a tough miss for Trevor Bonneau. He just got it started out of his hands a little bit, may have caught some debris. I don't think there was certainly no debris left on the ice from the broom that was broken by Matthew Hall. The ice techs came out and a lot of sweeping going on to make sure that every sliver was picked up. So I don't know that that was the case. I think that was just a little bit of a over curl out of the hands of Trevor Bonneau. We can tell you we have our first handshakes here. Looks like it will be a 3 on the board for Team Manitoba's Kyle Kurz. And looks like an 8-3 win for Manitoba over Team New Brunswick's Charlie Sullivan team from St. John. So Manitoba will improve to 3-0, tied for first place in Pool B with Jamie Cooey's team from the Northwest Territories. New Brunswick will fall to 1-2. So the hit is played here by Scott McDonald, and Ontario sits 2. Now, how does Northern Ontario deal with this? Hit and roll. Looks like it will be the call for Trevor Bonneau. Big shot here for Northern Ontario after that miss on his first stone. Trevor Bonneau needs to make this and make it good. Final shot underway. Mike McCarville working it hard to keep it straight. Now he's called off to see if they can get that roll. Now Amanda trying to carve it over a bit. Will they get a little inside flop? Just a little bit of one, but not enough, I don't think. That shot certainly is available to Scott McDonald with a chance to score 2. That would be a big deuce here in the 7th end. Final shot, 7th end, Scott McDonald. I always like to hear that. Clean, clean is the call. It looks like it's going to come in nice, and it will be a score of 2 for Team Ontario. And they will take an 8-5 lead into the 8th end. Northern Ontario will have last rock advantage when we return to the Swift Current Curling Club after this. What happened on Bravo here? Why are they not posting the score? Like,
We're for agriculture, for growers, doers, whatever it takers. We're for doing things with purpose. We're for the little guy with big guy dreams. We're for agriculture. We're for you. Nutrien Ag Solutions, leading the field.
This is it. It all comes down to this rock. The hours in the gym, the weeks away from my family. This is what I've been training for. And all those voices trying to tear me down, I'm here to silence them. We've given everything we have for a chance to get everything we want.
The Men of Curling calendar is back for 2024. 18 curling athletes from 4 different nations are raising money for various charities. Support them by purchasing yours today at curlingcares.com.
Welcome back to the Swift Current Curling Club as we head into the 8th end of this Battle of Ontario between Ontario and Northern Ontario. It's an 8-5 lead for Ontario. Northern Ontario needing to generate 3 with last rock, at least 3. We'll take a quick look at the other scores. We'll start with Sheet A. It is Alberta hanging on to a 4-3 lead over Newfoundland Labrador, playing in the 7th end. They just finished that 7th end, so we'll update you, but it was 4-3 for Alberta. Team Evan Van Amsterdam looking to get a second win. Sheet B, it is a final. You said there will be X's in that 8th end as they ran them out of rocks. Manitoba posting a 5-3 lead over New Brunswick, a 5-3 victory. And in the other game on the ice, as you see, it is 6-4 lead for Nova Scotia, Team Paul Fleming, over PEI's Team Tyler Smith. So, again, of course, you can get the latest scores, all the standings all the time on curling.ca/scoreboard. Curling.ca/scoreboard. In our game, Northern Ontario does have that center guard up, trying to get another one, but Trevor Bonneau is going to race out and see, you got to drag this across. Like to get a corner guard up there, a high corner. Looks like that should be okay. That'll play. It is tickable, though. It's not touching that center line, so the no-tick rule is not in effect. So that will be the call. They'll play the tick on the rock that's just in front of the rings. They can't take it out of play. They can certainly promote it in the rings, and this is another one of those instances where it's important to know which side to miss. Tight is the miss here. Wide does you no good here for Matthew Hall. Trevor Bonneau is going to race out and see if he can drag that over, but no, nice throw. Although it's kind of one of those scenarios that it is a corner guard now for Northern Ontario, which is not a bad scenario. So 2 corners up for Northern Ontario with Hammer is not a terrible position to be in. We will give you the update on the Alberta-Newfoundland-Labrador game. It was a count of 3 for Alberta's team, Evan Van Amsterdam from Edmonton. They take a 7-3 lead on Newfoundland-Labrador here in this 8th end. In our game now, Mike McCarville being asked to draw behind that corner guard. See if they can get some finish on this, but that's been a constant theme, is just taking too much ice on these throws to the wings. I can only remember one draw behind a corner that's actually been buried, and it was thrown by this man, Matthew Hall, a couple of ends ago. So that rock is wide open, and Matthew Hall will take a run at it. And it'll peel out. Probably the right call, too. You don't want to leave that shooter in the rings, because that shooter would be helpful to Northern Ontario. So another draw behind the corner is the call here from Mike McCarville. This one looks a little closer to the guard. Now they'll try and see if they can get it carved over a little more sideways. As you see, it still got by that guard by a good 8 inches, 20 centimeters or so, and it just stays a little bit on the open. So I would say that Laurie Eddy could probably see a good 2/3 of that stone from the hack. There's that call. If you're going to miss it tight. Miss it. Remove that corner guard. Do not miss it wide. Wide is not an option. She definitely is not wide, as Laura Neal was working hard to see if she can get this by the guard. It does. That's a nice throw by Laurie Eddy. It hits and rolls into the forefoot. If you're being picky, I'm sure Scott McDonald would have preferred that shooter go right out of the rings, but as you might imagine, Northern Ontario will ignore those stones in the forefoot and see if he can finally get one buried behind that corner guard. Let's see. Really, that corner guard is the only way to manufacture a 3. They got to get one buried behind there that isn't touchable. Now it's Jackie McCormick's turn to give a try at it. McCarville and Amanda Gates both trying to get it to move sideways. That's a little closer to the guard this time. And there it is. That's a great shot by Mike McCarville. It is in jail, and now the only option is to play the peel. Good shot there by Mike McCarville. So the peel will be the call here for Laurietti. Got to be careful on this one. And it does spill onto the rings. I was wondering if that was a possibility. And wow. Look out, because that rock is now buried behind the Ontario guard that was just the roll over there by Laurietti's shooter. A rock on the wings. And of course, those two Ontario stones that are sitting in the forefoot. But 3 now not out of the question at all for Northern Ontario. It's just a matter of what to do with this next stone that will be thrown by Jackie McCormick as the Northern Ontario does call its timeout. Lots of time left for them in this end, too, after this timeout's done. There are over 7 minutes left on the clock, so time not a concern. You know, you talk about it, and a lot of people might look at that and says, let's get them out of there. But right now, those red stones in the forefoot are helpful to Northern Ontario. We saw that in the 6th end. Reasonably similar setup, and Trevor Bonneau tapped one back. There was a jam, and that led directly to the deuce for Northern Ontario. So obviously, eventually, those stones have to be removed from the forefoot if Northern Ontario is going to score. It's 3. But I don't know that they need to do it. They certainly need to move them. But the key here is to have them potentially be used later in the end as catchers and get another yellow stone in there. They do sit 3rd and 4th right now, down 3. Suddenly looking a lot more optimistic for Northern Ontario than it was 2 or 3 minutes ago. So I think the call is for a little tap. Just change the angles of those, and eventually Trevor Bonneau is going to have some kind of shot, potentially at 3. That shot just did not curl enough, and it was that rock needed to stay in front of one of those red stones, the Northern Ontario stone, but it does bounce out into the open, and a big chance here now for Scott McDonald to take that out and sit 3. That'll make the job an awful lot tougher for Trevor Bonneau, the Northern Ontario skip. So the hit is played. So Ontario, 3 stones in the forefoot. We'll tell you that another game has gone final. Alberta, Team Evan Van Amsterdam, they pick up a 7-3 win. Alberta improves to 3-1. They beat Newfoundland Labrador, Team Keith Ryan, and they fall to 0-3. So nose hit, I think, here is the call for Northern Ontario. Keep his shooter right on top of that red stone. He should be able to get the other two out of the rings if he throws some weight at this. Trevor Bonneau, his first shot in this 8th and potentially final end. Amanda trying to get this to curl. They got to get to the nose. Need to hold the shooter in the rings, but it will spill out. And now, an opportunity for Scott McDonald to end the game right now. Just make this yellow rock go away. Open hit for the win for Scott McDonald and Team Ontario. Make it go away is the job. Looks like it's well on its way. And there it is. It is a victory, an 8-5 win for Team Scott McDonald and Ontario. They improve to 3-0. Northern Ontario drops to 1-2. And that will wrap things up here this morning at the 2023 Canadian Mixed. Reminder, there's one other game still in progress. You can change to that stream. PEI Nova Scotia in an extra end. And a reminder, our featured coverage will return today at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, here on Curling Canada Plus in conjunction with our friends at Curling Stadium. So for now, this is Al Cameron saying so long from Swift Current.